So this is the wool top that we've just steamed, and now I'm going to start spinning it. So it's a lovely, this is the Corriedale one, and I tend to, just for ease, I tend to just break it into usable lengths. So we'll just put the other one aside. Now I've talked about the direction that wool top has, and you can still feel it once it's been steamed. So if you run your hands along one way and then along the other way, this is actually the smooth direction, and it's all we've discussed it before, but it's all about how the fibers are laid down in the wool top, and this is the smooth way. If I run my hand along it, I can feel, in actual fact, that there's it's a little rougher, or it feels like it's fluffing up the fibers if I run my hand that way, whereas this way feels like I'm smoothing them down. So I'm going to spin with the smoothness coming towards me. So now I'm going to show you a method of spinning that I came across on YouTube one night when I had Googled, and I will put reference in the description below and the link to this original video that I watched. It's talking about a different way of spinning, a spinning that is possibly a little kinder to your wrist and your hands. I have a very sore wrist from years and years of spinning, and so I have to do shorter times of spinning, whereas this method that I came across has really opened up my spinning and the time that I can sit and spin. So I'm thrilled about it. So I'm going to just show you how I prepare my fibre. I will push my fingers through and I will tear it into a strip like that. And I might even do that once again. And so now I have a nice tube of fibre, almost like a tube width of a staple if you were spinning fleece. So I will do exactly the same for the process here. And I've actually just started a little bit of this. So what I'll do is I'll show you the process of how I start to spin this new method. Okay, so I join my fibre in exactly the same way. So I will rotate and allow the fibres to attach. You see how they're just slowly attaching there. And then what I tend to do is I will pinch at that point, and I'll just let this undo a little bit and then drag some fine fibres and slowly join. So I'm slowly joining. And now this will be the traditional way of spinning, where you pinch the fibres out and you slowly draw them forward. And my backhand is just gently holding the fibre and allowing it to be pulled out. But there's a lot of pressure that you have to place on your thumb and your finger here, and that pressure in turn goes right back through your hand. And of course this forward movement actually puts quite a lot of pressure on this part of your wrist. So let me show you this other method. Now, as you can see, I've still got my yarn coming down into my hand, but it's actually passing through, sometimes under my little finger and sometimes not. I just see how it goes, and it's passing along my fingers here. So I've actually got almost 3 points to which I can feel the twist and the thickness of my single. And now what I'm doing is I'm drawing out the fibre from, it's a combination for me at the moment, with where I'm pulling the fibre back with my left hand, and I'm also going forward and pulling my fibre out with my finger and my thumb here on my right hand. But what happens is that I've just lost that pressure, and I'm not actually using my wrists so much as I am using my fingers. It's just so much more relaxed. My shoulders are more relaxed, and my hands are more relaxed here. And you can see that the yarn that I'm producing is very even. This method for me actually produces a far more even yarn than me doing it the traditional way. You will find at first that you just need to adjust your pulleys or your whirls, and just find your new normal, for want of a better expression at the moment. It will change things a little bit, because you've changed your hands, but you'll also find that leads on to other things. So just take a little while to practice, and of course you're actually depending on the orifice that you've got. I've got a delta orifice. You might find that you need to pull your hands over in a little bit of a different direction, because I need to have my single directly in front of this. But I find that I can actually do this and not look at the yarn itself, and I tend to work quite closely with my left and my right hand. Sometimes I use this left hand to clamp the fibers so that the twist doesn't go into the fiber, and you get a true worsted by doing that. So you're actually using this left hand to clamp your fiber and not allow the twist to go into it. Other times I'll almost use, it's a bit like a short forward draw in a sense, and just allow the twist to go in the fiber. The steaming of the fiber really opens it up and allows you to draw it out. So now I'm just going to show you the same method, but a slightly finer yarn. And the reason I've made this a finer yarn, this is Wensleydale. It's quite a long wool. It would be the equivalent of probably our English Leicester. It's got a luster to it. This has been steamed, but you can see that the crimp is not as fine. It's got more of a wave to it, and it lends itself to really fine spinning. I'm actually going to make a lace yarn out of this, and so just because, so I've chosen a slightly smaller whirl or pulley so that I get more twist into the yarn. And so we'll just join this on. You can see the length of the staple here is quite considerable. So that lends it to quite a fine yarn. So what I'm going to do is just join it, little hairs, let the twist come in, and then once again, wearing something black really does help. Now you can see that I'm really just pulling out a few fibers each time, and I'm just controlling the pull of those fibers with my left hand as well. Can you see how I'm just going to work my way up this point, pull back a bit more, and then I'll start to get myself into a really lovely rhythm of drafting out the fibers. Let's just see how this is looking. Always like to test and fold it back on itself and have a look. Lovely. So you can see with this that the twist is quite soft, but that's really good for a lace yarn. You don't want it too tight, otherwise it becomes like string and you lose your drape. And so that's how you can see that this method works for a finer yarn as well. And now we're going to test it on a thicker yarn and see how it works with that. So now I've decided that I'd like to spin a slightly thicker yarn. This was the Blue Face Leicester that we steamed, and as you can see I've just stripped it down into a usable length. Because I'm going to make a slightly thicker yarn, I've moved my drive band up to a larger pulley or whirl, and my tension or take up is a little stronger because I want to get my yarn onto the bobbin as quickly as possible, and I will work fairly close to the delta. But even with this method, you can, I'll just take my hand back because this is a long staple, here we go. You can spin a thicker yarn. And you just get into that zone of drafting. You want to get it onto the bobbin fairly quick. The flyer is rotating a lot less than with the other yarns we just spun. And let's have a look at this and see how it's going to look as a yarn. Oh, there we go. And so you can see now that that's a lot thicker, and it's got some lovely bounce to it. Possibly it could have had a little less twist. When I look at it there, it might be a little tight, but as you start off and you relax, you'll be able to work that out. You need to adjust, as you noticed before, depending on the staple length also, you need to adjust the distance between your left and your right hand. There we go. That feels a bit better, and I can feel it as it goes through my little finger that there's less twist in there, and this is going to be, yes, a softer yarn. There we go.